What is up, guys? Today we're going to be going over patch 4.14. Now, there are actually 8 changes this patch which I'm going to go over. The rest of them are kind of just bug fixes. Now, the reason the patches are getting smaller and smaller is because probably next patch, I guess, will be the patch that Worlds will be played on, so they don't want to rock the boat too much. Now, at the end, I'm also going to do something different. I'm going to do a kind of what about section. A lot of people are asking me, why is an X-champion getting nerfed this time around? So I'll kind of try and go over the most popular ones and address them. Now, this patch, we're actually only seeing one buff, and that is going to be to Zed. There are going to be nerfs to Kassadin, Kog'Maw, Maokai and Morgana, Orianna, Rengar and Xerath, and we're going to be going over them now. So as I said, we're going to start with the nerfs and we're going to look at Kassadin first. Now the riff walk change here isn't like a 20 seconds for each riff walk, it's the time between the first one and the time it resets. So each time he uses it, the mana cost goes up, and it's now going to take 20 seconds instead of 12 to go back down to its normal mana cost. This is actually really big, and it's going to hurt Kassadin a lot. Now he's already kind of suffering. In solo queue he's doing okay, but this is going to severely reduce his teamfight and his roam potential as well. Now the reason it will reduce his teamfight potential is because he'll go in and he can't really dash around and stick to the carry or his target as easily as before. Okay, so when you dive in, you'll probably use 3 charges maybe to get to your target and apply damage. And then that's probably around 8 seconds, I'd assume. So then you use your Zhonya's and you only have 4 seconds left to actually wait until you can riff walk again. Now, on the other hand, if you jump in, you have those 8 seconds initially to charge up. Now you have to wait 12 seconds, 12 whole seconds before it recharges and you can go back down to using it normal mana. Honestly, I will actually probably stop banning Kassadin now because I don't think he's going to be as easy to play and as easy to dominate with. So next up we have Kog'Maw, and AD players, don't you worry, it's not really targeted at you. It's going to hurt you very slightly, but you'll hardly notice it. So they're reducing his bonus movement speed, and they're also reducing the bonus based magic damage to champions. Now this isn't going to make too much difference because the only AP you have is from Trinity Force, and the 5 movement speed isn't going to make too much difference. It is, however, going to make a big difference to AP Kog'Maw, and unfortunately I don't really think he's going to be anywhere near as strong as he was before. Yes, it's only 25%, but AP Kog'Maw was more about consistent poke rather than burst anyway, and this is just reducing his poke even more. So probably the biggest change, maybe apart from Kassadin, is to Maokai. Now the twisted advanced damage is pretty big, but the ultimate change is actually even bigger. So the maximum duration now was just applied to it. So there wasn't one before you could have it on as long as you like. But now with the maximum duration, it means that basically he's not invincible anymore. He used to be able to win trades and basically just survive in team fights because he could keep it on the entire time. And now basically he's going to be punished if he uses it too early. So if he goes in and engages and they kind of kite backwards for those 10 seconds, then he doesn't have that and he's actually a pretty easy target to kill. So let's move back to the Twisted Advance change, and this is actually pretty good because if you think about it, Maokai would build a Rod of Ages plus a Doran's Ring that's 95 AP, and then you can obviously find the 5 AP you need for the 100 pretty easily somewhere else. So that would mean that you were doing 15% base anyway, plus an extra 4% for having 100 AP, and that's 19% of your max health in damage, and that was a huge chunk. So next up we have a Morgana change, and honestly I'm kind of surprised because I don't think these two things are the things that make Morgana a top support right now. So if we think about it, the reason she's so good is because that bind lasts like 5 seconds. Well, it doesn't last 5 seconds, but it lasts a bloody long time. And the black shield, base shield going down here is nice. And it means that there's some counterplay because you can burst a shield and then layer some CC. But the ultimate change doesn't really affect her outside of her lane phase. Now don't get me wrong, she does do good damage in lane with her ultimate, but as I said, I don't really think that was where the problem stemmed from, so I think she's still going to be a top support. I'm going to go over this Orianna change very quickly because it's just reducing her attack damage, but it is reducing it by 6, and that's actually quite a lot. The reason they're reducing it is to make it easier to lane against her, especially as someone like a Zed, for example, because those auto attacks seriously start to add up and hurt. She's still going to be very strong. It hasn't changed her core kit or anything like that mid-game, which is where arguably she's strongest. So I like this change. It gives more counterplay, I guess, but her power remains there as well. So this Rengar change is a little bit bigger than it actually seems, because they have obviously increased their vision range while in a brush. With the head of Kha'Zix, kind of an irrelevant point, because when does that ever happen? Like, I have never had that special interaction between Rengar and Kha'Zix anyway. The nerf here though is the extra 30 seconds on the first rank of the cooldown, and the increased range of the finder, kind of the notification on your head, to 1250. Cooldown is self-explanatory. You can't use it as often, so it's not going to be as strong, and you're not going to be as potent level 6, which you were before. But the range increase is actually big with the other thing they've added as well. So now, even in Fog of War, you're still going to see him. This means that if you come from the side of the lane or something like that mid lane, then you're still going to be spotted, and it just gives you way more time to react to a Rengar, which is actually going to hit him pretty hard. This Xerath change is probably in response to Bishu's video, which was where you could get off these Xerath ultimates really quickly with some cooldown reduction. Now Riot are calling this a nerf fix, so it's a nerf and a fix rolled into one, I guess, and it's not really going to affect his overall power too much. I mean, he's still going to be strong, he's still a very good poke source, which is kind of what he was anyway, so I don't really expect him to be reducing in popularity just because of this change. So finally, let's move on to the one buff of this patch, and that's going to be to Zed. Now Zed is getting more popular because Exhaust was nerfed, and so he's way more effective now, and he can't be shut down by that one Exhaust in a team fight. Now the deathmark placing you behind them instead of in front is actually pretty big, because one of Zed's problems was that he doesn't really want to rush a Blade of the Ruined King anymore, and so he doesn't really have a great way of sticking to someone. I mean, obviously he does get a Blade of the Ruined King at some point because it just adds to the burst, but gives you kind of more damage levels 6 to 9, I guess, where you don't really have the blade finished yet. I actually really like this change, and the Koreans love Zed, which means that we're probably going to be seeing him in Worlds, and he is such a fun champion to watch in a kind of spectator format. So finally, I just want to move on to this what about section, the new section where I look at one or two champions that people think probably should be nerfed but haven't been touched this patch. Now the first one is Tristana, and Tristana is very strong right now and she snowballs very hard, but part of the problem is that it's the Infinity Edge change. Tristana works so well with Infinity Edge because of her rapid fire steroid that it means that she's always going to be strong unless you really nerf her kit, and that's kind of a problem. The other thing to remember is that Riot have to balance this game for the entire world, with World Finals coming up especially, and Tristana is not played in Korea hardly at all. In fact, the most popular AD in Korea is actually Ezreal and Lucian in high elo, and both of them have really good win rates. The problem here is you'd have to attack Triss pretty heavily on the kit side for the Infinity Edge and Rapid Fire combo to not work well, and I don't think Riot is going to want to change anything huge before Worlds actually come around. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like and subscribe and share it with everyone, and I will catch you in my next video.